The day my niece ran away, and I found the letter meant only for me. Okay, so I gotta tell you about this absolutely wild day that happened to me last year. Like, I'm still not completely over it, you know? It was one of those days where everything just goes completely sideways, and you're sitting there afterwards thinking, did that really just happen? So here's the thing. My niece Emma, she's 15, super smart, kind of a loner type. She ran away from home, just packed a bag and disappeared. And I was the one who found her. But that's not even the craziest part. The craziest part is what I found before I found her. This letter. This incredibly personal, heartbreaking letter that was meant only for me. And when I read it, man, it just changed everything. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up and tell you the whole story from the beginning, because there's a lot of context you're going to need to understand why this was such a big deal. So Emma is my older sister Rachel's daughter. Rachel and I, we've always been pretty close, even though we're super different. She's the organized one, the planner, the one who had her whole life mapped out by the time she was like 20. Me, I'm more of a go-with-the-flow kind of person. I work as a freelance graphic designer. I live in this tiny apartment downtown. I don't have kids. And honestly, I'm still figuring out what I want to be when I grow up, even though I'm 33 years old. Rachel married this guy Tom when she was 26. Tom's okay, I guess. He's one of those corporate dudes, you know? Always wearing a suit, always talking about quarterly reports and synergy and all that business jargon that makes my eyes glaze over. He's not a bad guy or anything, just kind of, I don't know, distant? Like he's always thinking about work, even when he's supposed to be present with his family. Anyway, they had Emma pretty soon after getting married, and for the first few years, everything seemed fine. I mean, from the outside looking in, they were like this perfect little family. Nice house in the suburbs, good schools, the whole deal. But as Emma got older, I started noticing some cracks, you know? Like, Emma was always the super creative kid. When she was little, she'd spend hours drawing these elaborate fantasy worlds, making up stories about dragons and princesses and adventures. She was really into it. But somewhere around middle school, that started to change. She got quieter, more withdrawn. She'd come to family dinners and just sit there on her phone, barely talking to anyone. And Rachel and Tom, they didn't really seem to notice. Or maybe they noticed, but didn't know what to do about it. I tried to stay connected with Emma, though. Like, I'd text her sometimes, send her funny memes, ask her about school and stuff. And every now and then, she'd open up a little bit. She'd tell me about some book she was reading or some show she was obsessed with. We had this thing where we'd both watch the same shows and then text each other about them. It wasn't much, but it was something, you know? So fast forward to last October. It was a Wednesday. I remember because I was working on this huge project for a client and I was totally in the zone, right? And then my phone starts blowing up, like call after call after call. I finally pick up and it's Rachel, and she's completely freaking out. I mean, I've never heard her like this before. She's always so calm and collected, but this time she's just losing it. Emma's gone, she says, and her voice is all shaky and panicked. She's not at school, she's not at home, we can't find her anywhere. And I'm like, whoa, wait, slow down. What do you mean she's gone? So Rachel explains that Emma didn't come home from school. They got a call from the school saying she never showed up to her afternoon classes. Tom went to pick her up and she wasn't there. They checked with all her friends. Well, the few friends they knew about, and nobody had seen her. They looked in her room and some of her stuff was missing. Clothes, her laptop, her journal. It was pretty clear she'd planned this. Rachel was absolutely panicking. And honestly, I was starting to panic too. I mean, this is a 15-year-old girl we're talking about. Anything could happen. Rachel said they'd already called the police and filed a missing persons report. But the cops basically said that most teenage runaways come home within 24 hours. and there wasn't much they could do right away unless there was evidence of foul play. "Can you help us look for her?" Rachel asked me, and there was this desperation in her voice that I'd never heard before. "Please, I don't know what else to do." Of course I said yes. I mean, what else was I going to say? This was my niece we're talking about. So I dropped everything, grabbed my jacket and keys, and headed out. But here's the thing. Before I left my apartment, I sat there for a second and tried to think like Emma. Where would she go? What was she thinking? I pulled out my phone and checked our text messages, scrolling back through weeks and weeks of conversations, looking for any clue, any hint of what might have been going on in her head. And that's when I remembered something. A few months back, Emma and I were texting about her favorite places in the city. She mentioned this old bookstore downtown, this place called the Dusty Cover. She said it was like her escape, her safe place, where she could just disappear for a few hours and nobody would bother her. She'd go there after school sometimes and just read, surrounded by all these old books and the smell of coffee from the little cafe they had in the back. I'd been there once with her, actually. It was this cramped, cozy little place with books stacked floor to ceiling, all these narrow aisles where you had to turn sideways to get through. The owner was this older guy named Marcus, who clearly loved books more than people. Emma said he never asked questions, never tried to make small talk. He just let her be. That's what she liked about it. So I thought, okay, maybe that's where she'd go. It was worth a shot at least. I texted Rachel and told her I had an idea and I'd check it out. She was grateful, I could tell, but she was also just so scared. She kept saying things like, what if something happened to her? What if someone took her? What if she's hurt? And I kept trying to reassure her, saying Emma was smart and resourceful, and she probably just needed some space. But honestly, I was worried too. The drive downtown took forever because of traffic. It was rush hour and everyone was trying to get home. And I'm sitting there in my car, just gripping the steering wheel, my mind racing with all these worst-case scenarios. Like, what if she wasn't at the bookstore? What if she'd gotten on a bus to another city? What if she'd met up with some stranger from the internet? You hear about this stuff happening all the time, and it's terrifying. Finally, I made it downtown and found parking, which is always a miracle in that neighborhood, and basically ran to the Dusty Cover. It was starting to get dark outside, and the store had these warm, yellow lights in the windows that made it look super inviting. I pushed open the door and heard the little bell ring, announcing my arrival. Marcus was behind the counter, reading a thick hardcover book. He looked up at me over his reading glasses and gave me this little nod. I kinda recognized him from when I'd been there with Emma before. "Hey," I said, trying to sound casual even though my heart was pounding. "I'm looking for my niece, teen girl, long dark hair, probably wearing a black hoodie. Her name's Emma." Marcus studied me for a second, like he was deciding whether or not to trust me. Then he gestured with his head toward the back of the store. "Reading room," he said simply, then went back to his book. I made my way through the narrow aisles, past shelves of old novels and poetry collections and travel guides. The back of the store opened up into this small reading room with a couple of armchairs and a beat-up couch. And there she was. Emma was curled up in one of the armchairs, her knees pulled up to her chest, reading a book. Her backpack was on the floor next to her, and she looked, I don't know. She looked so small and vulnerable sitting there. When she saw me, her eyes went wide and this look of panic crossed her face. "Please don't tell them I'm here," she said immediately, and her voice cracked a little. "Please, Uncle Jake, just give me a little more time." I sat down on the couch across from her, trying to figure out what to say. I mean, part of me wanted to just grab her and take her home right then and there. Her mom was losing her mind with worry. But another part of me knew that if I did that, if I just forced her to come back without understanding why she left, it wouldn't solve anything. Your mom's really scared, Em, I said gently. We all are. You can't just disappear like that without telling anyone. I know, she said, and she looked down at her hands. I know it was wrong, but I couldn't stay there anymore. I just couldn't. What's going on? I asked. Talk to me. What's so bad at home that you felt like you had to run away? She was quiet for a long time, just staring at her book without really reading it. Then she said, They don't see me, Mom and Dad. They see this version of me that they want me to be, but they don't see who I actually am. And I'm just so tired of pretending. That hit me pretty hard, honestly, because I could see it, you know? I could see how Rachel and Tom had all these expectations for Emma. Good grades, college prep, extracurriculars. They wanted her to be this perfect, successful kid. But Emma wasn't like that. She was creative and thoughtful and needed space to just be herself. Okay, I said. I hear you. But running away isn't the answer, Em. We need to figure this out together. There's nothing to figure out, she said, and there was this bitterness in her voice that surprised me. They're never going to understand. They're never going to accept that I'm not who they want me to be. Have you tried talking to them? I asked. Like, really talking to them about how you feel? She laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. It was this hollow, sad sound. So many times. But they don't listen. They just tell me I'm being dramatic, or that I'll understand when I'm older, or that I need to focus on my future. They don't care about what I want. They only care about what looks good. I didn't know what to say to that. I mean, I knew Rachel could be a bit